Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Hey, Owen. My name's Jay, and I'm actually a theistic Satanist. I do believe in Satan as a god. I can't back it up with science, but I heavily support all that you do in exposing cults and cult members. And there's actually a satanic group called JOS Ministries. I don't consider them to be a true satanic group because they preach hate, and I was wondering if sometime you could cover them and just give some information on them. Everything on their website is actually copyrighted, so you'd have to dance around it a little bit in explaining things. Thanks a lot. You have a great day.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just want to point something out. I'm glad that you're a fan, and I appreciate you coming and giving all my stuff a listen. Although I did detect a little bit of a no true Scotsman fallacy popping up there, where you said they're not true Satanists because they are hateful. I don't know. I think Satanist is a label that people kind of self-ascribe. So if they call themselves Satanists, I'd consider them Satanists. But yeah, I have heard of Joy of Satan before, JOS. I'm okay with kind of taking a quick glance through and see what they're all about here. There is no God but myself. Knowing this, who dares worship the false gods of the Quran and the Bible? Satan from the Karet al-Yazid. That's weird. Okay. Exposing Christianity. Okay, let's look at the dedicate your soul to Satan section here. What happens when I make a formal commitment to Satan? Satan looks out for his own. Satan gives us inner strength, and we become very strong in spirit, unlike right-hand path religions, where adherents are forever praying and searching for their God. Satan comes to us on his own. Many times we can feel him. He comes to guide us when we get down, worried, or experiencing problems. Wow, that's weird. So it's basically your traditional theistic, like, this is people who genuinely do worship Satan of the Bible, like the Satan of the Bible. The Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple are non-theistic Satanists. They don't really buy all of this magical stuff, for the most part. But Joy of Satan really does buy it. And they really are a hateful group on a concerning level. Definitely should be keeping an eye on this. There are others. There are other theistic Satanist groups or just Satanist groups that are hateful and dangerous, like Order of Nine Angles. That one is pretty concerning too. They're out there. They are. And that's really concerning stuff. I honestly don't really respect religious belief at all. Period. Whoever it is. I respect the religious believer, but not the belief. I think it's ridiculous, and there's no reason to respect it. Like I said, I'll respect the person, but every idea is open to scrutiny, in my opinion.
Hi, Owen. This is Corey from South Carolina. I just find it weird how the Evangelicals will always give predictions, especially if they read the Bible, it's just blaspheming. If something doesn't come true, do they not go and repent or whatever? Or do they just want to keep on and on and on and on and dig into the grave? How does their base not realize what they're doing is wrong? All right, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, interesting question. So what it boils down to me is people like Johnny Enlow or Kat Kerr, Paula White, all of these people continue to make these prophecies, full-blown prophecies that Donald Trump is going to be the president in 2020, or whatever else, like a billion prophecies that fail. They straight up fail. They don't come true. How does the base reconcile this? How do they not see straight through this? Like, they're obviously lying. And the Bible explicitly warns against people like this. In my opinion, I think the reason that people are just overlooking it and pretending that they're not spreading false prophecy is because they don't want to believe it. And the pastors are giving them outs. They're giving them off-ramps. They're saying Biden changed the prophecy by stealing it. Trump really did win, but Biden stole it from him, even though Trump won. So I was right all along. And that's a perfect off-ramp that the evangelicals need to continue believing their pastor was right and telling the truth and not a false prophet. And also resolving that cognitive dissonance that Trump isn't the president like they said that he would be. It's a willingness to accept a nonsensical explanation in their mind, basically, is what it is. But all the rest of the outside world looking in can see how completely absurd and ridiculous it is at its face. In fact, a lot of other evangelical Christians who don't follow Kat Kerr or Paula White or Johnny Enlow or any of the others, even other evangelicals, can see it for what it is.
Hey, Owen, this is Brent from Michigan. So you brought up a leftist conspiracy about the whole corn and fish DNA, and it got me thinking.
Just give a little bit of context to this. A couple of weeks ago, I think, I mentioned some leftist conspiracies because a lot of conspiracies that we talk about come from the right in America right now. Election fraud, and even a lot of flat earthers are like giga religious Christians and have like made that part of their identity, and that's tied in heavily with right-wing extremism and stuff. So somebody asked me in a voicemail, like, are there any left-wing conspiracies that you've heard of, or left-wing conspiracy theorists? And they're out there, definitely. As I said last week or whenever it was, they are definitely out there, left-wing conspiracies. I mentioned a vegan conspiracy theory about some kind of a fish having its DNA mixed with corn, and nobody was telling you about this, and it was intended to make the corn grow in colder environments. It was like GMO stuff, and they're like super anti-GMO, and that was like a left-wing conspiracy theory that I talked about. That's what this person was referencing.
I know somebody, he's part of the LGBT community, liberal, but he thinks that they're putting chimpanzee DNA in the vaccine for, I don't know. I couldn't get an answer out of him.
I assume you were saying you wanted to know if I'd heard of that. I had not heard of that. They are out there, definitely. A lot of conspiracy theories, even on the left. There are a weirdly high number of anti-vax conspiracy theorists out there that are on the left, too. The right kind of picked up the mantle and became the prevailing conspiracy theorists. But yeah, the left is out there with them too. We cannot discount how serious that problem is. It's just they're not the ones that are destroying society at this immediate moment. If I come across one that I feel is really pervasive and needs to be addressed, I will absolutely address it. I don't care if it's left-wing or right-wing. It's just the right seems to have a disproportionate amount of societal sway right now, societal influence, and that's why I'm really focusing in on what they're doing at the moment. This email is from Philip. Hope this email finds you well. I've been watching your content for a while now, and I've got to say I love it. I have mad respect for you for being able to stand up and defend what you believe is right. And you own cats. Never seen a person who owns pets that's a bad person. Well, I appreciate that. Anyway, here's a question that's been knocking around my empty noggin. Can cults be positive on a societal level? Since the answer on the personal level is clearly not in the long term. Could a cult be a force for good, or is it bound to always end up in disaster? Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on what you mean by force for good. There are some cults out there that like run soup kitchens or they run homeless shelters or whatever. That's a societal good, I guess, what they're doing there. But there's nothing stopping any other organization that is not a cult from doing that. If there's something that a cult could do that a secular organization could not do or does not do, then I would say, yeah, I suppose so. The problem is that this group could do this without being a cult. All other things being equal, I want to eliminate the existence of the cult by waking everybody up inside of it and freeing them from the fabricated prison that the leaders have put them in, by the prison of the mind that they've put them in. Free them from that and organize to create another soup kitchen that's free from cult influence, or another homeless shelter, or whatever else it is. Can cults do things for society that is beneficial? Yes, they can do things that are of benefit to society just as easily as any secular organization can. The bad that they do outweighs the good. I would still want to get rid of the cult before I accepted the help of the cult, basically. This one is from Garion. Hey Telltale, it's Garion from California. My question is, why do Jehovah's Witnesses try to cover up or protect child? Wouldn't it be better for their image to work with the authorities to properly investigate CSA in congregations? I can understand a congregation doing it, but not why the organization as a whole might. It all routes back to the two-witness rule. Jehovah's Witnesses have a deeply held belief that the end is like right around the corner. It's here. Any 5 minutes now it's going to happen. And when that happens, the government is going to turn on everybody and destroy everything. So the Jehovah's Witness religion as a whole is going to have to step in and fill the governmental role for its people. So it steps in now as much as possible to fill the government role. It tries to act as a government for its people. The way that it formed its government out, the Jehovah's Witness organization, is modeled after what the Bible lays out, or how the biblical government was kind of set up, with a set of overseers who work with the congregation. You have to have two witnesses there to oversee contracts and things like that. The two-witness rule, as they call it, is this rule where if something didn't happen to two witnesses or in front of two witnesses, or didn't happen to two victims, we can't believe it. We're going to be skeptical. We'll look into it. We'll investigate, but we're not going to believe anything unless there were two victims or two witnesses to it. That is in Matthew, I think. We don't need that now, first of all, because we have DNA evidence. We have investigators. We pay for people to go around and investigate crimes and sign contracts, and we have computers that can save information and all this other stuff. We don't need to model things after the Bible's model. But aside from that, the two-witness rule wasn't even about that. It wasn't even about crimes that are committed. You don't need two victims in the Bible to establish that a crime's been committed. You handle crimes differently. The two-witness rule was intended for contract signing. Like if somebody wants to buy a hoe from somebody, like a backhoe or something, like plowing land or whatever. If they want to buy one of those from somebody, there have to be two people standing there to witness the contract signing, or the contract is invalid, basically. That's what the two-witness rule was originally about. But Jehovah's Witnesses applied it to crimes, like real crimes. And instead of calling the police, they decided to set this up as their judicial system. They view things as sins, not crimes. That's why they've been hesitant to call the police when there's been CSA or whatever else. Because they want to set up their own government. They want to get it to the point where they don't need to involve the outside government at all. In an ideal world, they would be completely separate and live on a different island entirely from the U.S. government, and they would run everything from the top down. That's why they don't report things to the authorities when they're supposed to, for example, because they're trying to set up their own government in preparation for the end. This one's from Vanessa. I noticed that someone who works at a program that deals with mental health has been reading Watchtower Scripture on the Mac while doing her work. She doesn't seem she's one person promoting her religion on others. She's kind and a calm person, so I have no issues with her. I'm an atheist, but I respect people who want to believe in something and they're not forcing it on others. Anyways, what are Jehovah's Witnesses' stance on people with mental health issues? I know some pastors in the States compare autism to demonic forces. I hadn't seen a video of Caleb and Sophia contacting somehow who mentally unstable. I'm sorry, I'm just reading it as it was written. As someone who has schizophrenia, depression, and a mild case of autism too for 20 years, I had been with a Christian fiancé who'd helped me turn my life around without enforcing his beliefs on me. I don't like the idea that people say religion is a mental illness because it looks like a scapegoat answer to avoid responsibilities of their issues. Thank you kindly, and I hope to hear a response from you, Vanessa. Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree completely. I do not like it when people say religion is a mental illness. I completely disagree with that assessment. What are Jehovah's Witnesses' stance on people with mental health issues? In the past, historically, Jehovah's Witnesses used to be very opposed to medicine or treatments at all. Any kind of medical treatment or science or whatever, they were very opposed to it. But in recent years, they've kind of moved in more of a it's a conscience matter direction. And antidepressant pills have actually become incredibly popular in certain congregations. It's like every person in the congregation is on antidepressants, on benzodiazepines or whatever, Xanax and stuff, because it helps them make it through the miserable lives that the religion has put them in, pretty much, which is so incredibly sad for them. So I would say, for the most part, they respect the mental health field mostly, but there are some old school Jehovah's Witnesses who remember a time when the Watchtower Society was heavily opposed to mental health care or medicine or this thing or that thing, and they are also still very opposed to it. So it's kind of hit or miss, but there is an epidemic among Jehovah's Witnesses of antidepressant use, sadly.